Hi there. This is going to be a video about intelligence. Now, I was just looking up on the internet, Google, and I was just trying to find some heart-based, Heart Math Institute type pictures. And this is old knowledge. I watched a video, was it last year or something, of the Heart Math Institute, and they were saying that mystics from thousands of years ago said the same things. But this is what happened to me when I had this unexpected spiritual awakening, which is ongoing, which has been relentless awakenings ever since. And I didn't know anything about the Heart Math Institute then. I didn't know anything about this kind of information then. Anything about this. So you can imagine how insane I thought I was going. But, I personally think that in that awakening I suffered a nervous breakdown. And because I couldn't stop crying, I was just overly emotional and just freaking out totally. And I was in peak fear. My whole body was shaking because I didn't know what was going on. And then after a week or two, I start to realize that this was a spiritual experience, and and the rest, and every day been awakening to more stuff ever since. But what happened is, it's just like this topic I'm talking about, heart-based living. What happens is you're now working from your heart space. That's what awakening really is. And that's why you've become more aware. I think it's just that thing about being on your own, and when you're on your own it's dangerous, because you can awaken then. You start to think about things, or you can be aware of things. And that's what happened to me, a miracle. I just paid attention to presence, and then you start working from your heart space. And then once you start doing that, that's what they call the big spiritual awakening, which, because you're working from that space now you're having this massive shift, which a lot of people think is like some separate divine experience, but it's actually not. It's actually you that's doing it. It's just that if you look at a lot of the people that have had spiritual awakenings, they've all been like on their own. And that's why when you're on your own, you can tap into things, because there's no distractions, you see. This is why, someone who's on their own will be a lot more intelligent than most people that are together, because you become like the energy you associate with. And I want to talk about intelligence. This is what this video is about, really, about heart intelligence. This is something that both Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla spoke about as well, about intuition, about heart-based intelligence. And that is where the intelligence is, you see. Like I was saying earlier about the spiritual awakening, what it did was, because you're working from your heart space, that's the doorway to your divinity, you see, to your higher consciousness, to beyond the third dimension. And this is how you do it. This is how you awaken yourself. You start going within there. You start going within your heart space, and you start developing to be. See, human intelligence is based on memory and problem solving from the memory in the brain. But heart intelligence is almost beyond, it's beyond memory and into feeling, love, which is God. And this is why when people have these spiritual awakenings, they're starting to ascend higher than the third dimension. That's because they're accessing their higher divine intelligence, which is a higher dimension beyond this dimension. You can't compare intelligence levels of a third dimensional being to a fourth or fifth dimensional being, because it's a higher dimension. And this heart intelligence is spoken about by the Heart Math Institute in America. And I don't know where about it is, but I found out about it. It does exist, and and it's old knowledge, but it's science now as well. And they take someone with depression and they tell them to think of the problem in their head, then they have all sorts of anxiety, and then they get them to live from the heart. And then once you start living from that space, you start awakening, you start ascending, you start healing. Ascension is healing. This is how all pain manifests. So everything, a medical fact now, that everything comes from emotion. And that sends electrical shock waves through the body, and it's too much, and this causes physical illnesses. And the way to heal it is love, is to go within there and to love yourself. Self-forgiveness comes from working from the heart space. And then in that, you develop this, your love becomes so powerful. This is what happened to me, that you want to give. You're no longer a narcissist. You're no longer needy like you were. And this is what the planet is ascending towards in this global spiritual awakening, with heart-based living, with people having spiritual awakenings and passing this information on, and also science passing it on, is where this is how the planet is healing. This is why the system is trying to rush the 5G and all this stuff out, because it knows that this stuff is so powerful. You're talking about God here. You're talking about, what is God? God is this love that I'm talking about, and your heart space is how you access it. The heart space is how you access your higher self, your higher divinity, your infinite divinity, because everything comes from an infinity source. And that consciousness is what nothingness is. That means that if we're aware now and you got nothing, then that means there's only awareness. And as soon as you're aware from nothing, what are you going to have then? You're going to have love and gratefulness. That's why that love is infinite. If there's life, if there's infinite life, there's infinite love. Because of the gratefulness of what nothingness presented for it. It presented infinite life. It is the life. It is the love. And in this, when you're living from your heart space, your breathing starts to alter. People talk about breathing. This is how you correct it properly. By going within your heart space and going with that, and then you start to heal, and then your breathing starts altering, and your awareness starts changing. This is when you're entering the higher dimensions, you see, and different levels of consciousness, higher levels of consciousness, which is higher levels of intelligence. Remember, the brain is only a certain size, isn't it? So if you're accessing infinity, that's a completely, altered level of intelligence which has ever been known before. This intelligence level has not been known. And that's what's going on, and that's how you awaken right now, is by living from that space. See, before, everything was molded to control us. Mind control. Everything comes from the top. But now the planet is going through a spiritual awakening. You know, to control people, how the system did it was you just have to control one generation of people, and they then will control or program their children. But now the planet is going through a global spiritual awakening that is altering the perceptions back to its natural divinity, which we were taken away from. Through this, people having awakenings, living from the heart, and passing this message on, or just simply being examples. And because this information is in science now about the heart intelligence and what it is, it's also in spiritual community and the science community also, and medical. So that's what's going on the planet, and that's how you heal, and that's how you go on your awakening journey, by simply living from that space. And that will cure everything for you. All is within you. Thank you for watching. Thank you.